welcome back to Elfo Deco. Today we're making some coasters. So these are the coasters that we'll be making. I call these half and half coasters because they have half color on one side and half floral on one side. They're super cute and so functional. So I will show you exactly how I make them and then we'll see them in use. Let's get started. For these coasters, I will be using these circle coaster molds that I made. They're 4-inch molds and a 1/4 inch deep. I like these molds for pressed flowers because we don't need such thick molds for pressed flowers. We end up saving a lot of resin with these. For the resin, we have Totobo's High Performance Slow Resin. I just mixed it up so it looks a little bit bubbly, but the bubble release is pretty good for this resin, so we'll be okay. We're going to make 2 sets of half and half coasters, one with the transparent blue half and one with the mica powder blue half. I separated the resin into 2 smaller cups, one for each blue. They're medicine cups, about 2 fluid ounces each. The flowers that we're using today for the flower side of the coasters, it's a variety pack from Amazon. The 2 blues that we're using is Mayspring's Turquoise Blue and Mixo's Blue Tint. Keep in mind that the amount of resin is not a lot, so don't overdo it with the mica and the tint. Too much mica powder can give you a feathery look. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's not my preferred look. It looks a little bit bumpy. Maybe I'll do a video showing that one day. Mixo's tints can also get opaque if too much is used. We're going for a transparent look, so a couple drops is more than enough for our resin. Mix the colors fully into the resin. That means no streaks for liquid dyes or lumps for powder pigments. As always, my mixing is sped up so the real time is much slower. Don't mix this fast or else you'll end up with a lot of bubbles in your mixture. I would also suggest using a smaller size mixing stick for smaller cups or larger for larger ones because this one is a little bit big and I tend to spill the resin off the edge sometimes. Because of that, it gets a little messy, so use the appropriate size mixing stick for the mixing cup that you're using. Once we're done mixing, we're almost ready to pour. We always want to make sure our molds are clean before pouring. I am using packaging tape to pick up any dust or specks or drips that falls into the mold. If we skip this step, then unwanted pieces will get casted in our piece. You'll notice that when you demold and it'll be the only thing you see because that's the only thing you'll notice. Now we're ready to pour. We're going to pour the transparent blue tint coasters first. To create the half and half, we pour both the color and the clear at the same time. This way we get as close to the half and half as possible. We will also have an idea of how much space we have for the flowers and where to place our flowers on the clear side. As always, I don't really have a plan for flower placement. I'm just going with the flow. One thing I must note is don't fill the molds all the way up to the top on this first layer. Flowers tend to float to the top, so we will need a second layer of clear resin to fill the molds and cover any flowers that stick out. If you fill the mold to the top here, your flowers will stick out of the mold and you'll have no more space to cover up the flowers sticking up. As I work with the flowers, I am gently pressing them with the mixing stick to make sure that the flowers are fully covered. Bubbles can also get trapped underneath the flowers, so the light pressing will help bring the bubbles to the side and float to the surface. You'll also see me adjusting the placement of these flowers, carefully moving them around in the resin. One of the biggest reasons I love this resin for pressed flowers is because it's a thinner resin. We can easily move it without breaking the flowers. We also have a decent work time, about 30 minutes, to make any adjustments if needed. And also, the bubble release is good for this resin. You'll see when we demold it how clear it is compared to the bubbly mixture you saw in the beginning. If you want to try out this resin, the link will be in the description, and I also have a little discount for you if you use my link as well. I know resin is expensive, so any savings would definitely be great. When I'm done placing my flowers, I will give the middle a little swirl to blend the middle line a little bit. It'll look more flowy and not so straight. Then use a heat gun to pop any bubbles that float to the surface. Now we're going to pour the other blue coasters, the mica powder one. second layer now. Let me show you close up of what I meant when I say the flowers are floating to the top. There's a little piece sticking up, and we'll trim that because it seems like it's above the height of the mold. Had we filled the mold up in the first layer, we would not be able to cover that up, and we'll have to sand that down and polish the back of these coasters. So now we're going to fill our coaster molds all the way to the top for the second layer, and that's it. We're using the same Total Bolt high performance resin, the slow hardener version, and we're keeping this clear. You can add a background color in this step as well if you want. I often like to do white, and it'll give a white background to the flowers. But if we do that, these transparent blue ones will not be so transparent anymore, so we're going to stick to clear for these sets. Pour some resin in the center and then spread it out. If you need more, just add. Don't pour too much at first because it's easier to add than to take away. We do the same with the other blue set. Fill the mold with clear resin and pop any bubbles at the surface with a heat gun and let it cure overnight. The resin has fully hardened and now we can demold them. You kind of have an idea of what to expect since these are sort of clear, but they still turned out so lovely when we flip them over. I love the transparency of these blue ones. I usually do mica powder because I have lots of pretty mica colors, but this blue is so nice too. The flowers also match really well. Adding a little green here breaks up the blues a bit from the color and the flowers, but it also completes the piece because green is just part of the flowers. It's nature. And notice the clarity of the resin, how little bubbles there are in these coasters. Now let's take a look at the other blue set. I really love this blue color, it's so pretty. All the materials will be linked in the description if you want to get this blue mica powder as well. I wanted to see if these could be placed in any way possible, but with the way the greens are, it looks better with the florals on the right side. I think I like this set more because it's a brighter blue, but let me know in the comments which one you like more. We'll have to finish these pieces with a top coat, so we're going to protect the back of these coasters with glue. For resin drip protection, we coat these coasters with a layer of glue using a silicone brush. This is just regular Elmer's glue, the ones used in school. I got this giant 1-gallon bottle for about $15 at Walmart and it's lasting me a very long time. Drop some glue in the center of the pieces and use the brush to spread it out. The same tip with resin applies here. Don't pour too much at first. If you need more glue, you can always add more. Let me just explain a little bit more about why we do this. When we top coat our pieces, resin can drip over the edges of the piece, and sometimes we want to coat the entire pieces with the edges as well. So like if we painted the sides gold or something, I generally don't coat the sides, I just go for the dome effect on the top of the pieces. But when resin drips down the sides, it'll get to the back of our pieces. Having the glue layer will allow the resin drips to cure on the glue instead of directly on the back of our pieces. When the resin cures, we can peel the glue off and the resin drips will pop right off with the layer of glue. That way we don't have to sand the drips and polish the back of our pieces. This saves us a lot of work because sanding and polishing is tedious work, my opinion at least. Once we're done applying the glue, we'll let that layer dry, and it can take a while, normally 18 hours for me, but if you have a fan blowing at the pieces, it'll speed up the glue drying time by a lot. So we'll finish coating the rest of our coasters and then we'll go do the top coat. Now that the glue is dried, you see it's like a frosted white on the back of these coasters as opposed to the opaque white when we first poured it. We can do our top coat. I am placing the coasters onto these cups to give the coasters some height. That way the drips will fall onto the table and the coasters won't be in a puddle of resin if there were any drips. We want to make sure that the cups are on a flat surface. I have tiny resin drips on my silicone mat, so I'm just picking that up, otherwise it could end up a little wobbly and the top coat will not be leveled. I'm pressing the cups down to make sure that it's not wobbly or anything. I use these cups of resin as well, so I want to make sure that the edges of these cups are even. When we're good, we can set the coasters onto the cups, and one last thing is pressing on the cups on the coasters to make sure that it's not wobbly. Oh, and on a note of things being leveled, when we apply the glue, we want to make sure that the layer of glue is even and not lopsided, or else that will also give us an uneven top coat. Now we can pour our top coat. We are using tabletop resin for this. You can see that it's thicker than the resin that we use to pour our coasters. The tabletop is meant for coating, which is perfect for this step. Pour a little bit in the middle and then use the mixing stick to spread it out. You can always add more if you need. I know I'm repeating this many times, but it's true. It'll save you a lot of time in the long run as well if you keep that in mind. Your heat gun is also very important for this step to pop any bubbles on the surface. The bubbles will continue to float to the surface, so I usually stick around until the end of the work time for this resin, about 15 to 20 minutes, occasionally blowing the heat gun at the pieces that I'm coating to pop the surface bubbles. We're going to coat the rest of these coasters and let the top coat fully cure, then I'll show you how they turn out. Here is a close-up of the top coat that we just did, and look at that little dome effect and how shiny that top coat is. The pieces have fully cured and this is what they look like. They're super shiny with the top coat, and you still see the frosted white from the glue protection layer, but we will remove that right now. And unfortunately we did not get any drips. Well, fortunately we didn't get any resin drips, but you can't see the glue in action, the glue protection. So if you did want to see that, you can check out some of my other doming tutorials to see what I mean by the resin drips. So for removing the glue layer, we are going to use a sharp tool and look for a bubble in the glue layer. I am using my Cricut weeding tool, and I find the largest bubble that I can on the back of these coasters to pick at it. That way we're not scratching the coasters. This is to create an opening so you can peel the glue layer off. We really want to be careful not to ruin our pieces in the final steps, so I am taking my time with this. And while we do that, I just want to let you know that these coasters are available on my website in my shop if you like them and want to give them a home. My shop link will be in the description, and you'll also find the other things that I make on this channel and a lot more. Now back to these coasters. Look at how shinier the coasters are with the top coat. I love the dome effect going around the edges as well. Gives them some extra depth. I peeled the rest of the glue backings off camera, and here is a closer up of what both sets look like. Don't forget to let me know in the comments which one you like more. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed making these half and half coasters with me. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below if you have any questions or comments. I'll see you next time.